let's go on to the next match. We are now going to see the debut of the Tag Team Championship belts.
Let's
This
go.
is handmade in the US of A. And we're going to see these belts strapped around
Let's
one
go.
of the teams coming up.
Let's
Either
go,
Market
boys.
Justice Warriors or Toontown. That's the next. What do you guys think of that matchup? Who do you think is going to come out on top?
I think everyone should go to twitch.tv/he.
Oh, wow.
I think Toontown for sure. I've already put my money on Toontown.
Yep, like I said, I think that Toontown is a strong team, but I think that the other the market warriors, they are very in it to win it. They chose a topic that they knew that they could win, so I'm putting my money on them.
Oh God, no, we did not
Boy, I'm
choose that
split
topic.
down the middle. We haven't seen Eris in a while, and we haven't seen Last Username that much until recently. So I'm excited to see this new format, Dylan. This is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. So everyone, it's time for the vice presidential main event, okay? It's time for the second tier event of the night as we see the Tag Team Championship belts. People go head-to-head for these for the first time ever. We're going to throw it over to Billy the Fridge, the announcer, to introduce the two tag teams as they make their way into the ring. Thank you for the commentary, team. I will talk to you all.
We're going no music, boys.
Tag Team Championship
No music tonight.
match. See you guys later.
Later.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight by debuting the Hippy Dippy Tag Team Championship belts. And
4,000
that's right,
out of nowhere.
This is your Tag Team Championship match.
Everyone knew.
On one side is the tag team
What?
made up of two ANCAPs known
My
for
bad.
status everywhere. They don't like the government and they don't like you. They're the fedora tipping duo, Fabian Liberty and Last Username, the Market Justice Warriors.
Let's go. I'm not a fucking activist. You fucking mean bastards.
Start with the rules of today's match. Welcome both of you, all of you, all four of you, for the first ever Tag Team Championship match. I would like to welcome you all. So, the rules are simple. They're hippy-dippy standard rules. You do not talk over me while I'm talking. You do not do any, attacks
Let's
on
go.
people's, inheritable characteristics. You can't be like, hey, look at this dumb fucking cartoon. I understand. I feel it too, but we cannot do that tonight. Okay? We are not allowed any VTuber discrimination because their civil rights organizations have got involved. Ugh, whatever. And advertisers, of course. But that's the basic rules. I don't think I need to explain it to all of you because all of you have been participants of my events for so long. And so, we're probably just going to go straight into it since we've already been introduced. The topic is child labor, and should it be legal? I think we all agree that's the topic. Should it be legal?
Right.
Yes.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Sounds good.
So, since they are arguing in the affirmative, I'm going to allow Market Justice Warriors to go first. I'm going to give you guys a minute and 30 seconds in that range. Just try to keep a clock. I got to use the bathroom.
You gave us 5
Wait,
minutes when you
wait.
discussed this before.
I'm sorry.
I thought we were arguing
I-
whether or not there's child labor laws are okay, are a good thing.
Well, yes. If you believe they're legal, if they should be legal, then we shouldn't have child labor laws. Yes.
Last Username or I are saying to abolish child labor law.
Based. Giga
Yeah.
Chad, let's go.
Okay.
We have 5 minutes.
So you got
We have 5 minutes between the two.
intro.
of us.
Okay.
as long as listen, Dylan, sorry. As long as we got 5 minutes as well, that's fine.
Everybody, shut the fuck up. We are running on a very tight schedule. 5 minutes. Fabian, go.
Username
All right.
first.
Okay, either. It doesn't matter. Go.
Go.
Thank you, Dylan. Okay, it's very easy to say, think of the children, right? Think of the children. I think you're going to hear our opponents saying that a lot tonight. They're going to tell you about children toiling away in sweatshops and mines, and they will make you feel like, I don't like that, make it go away, make it go away. That's understandable. The people in the developing world are a lot like you and me, right? They are not evil. They're not stupid. They care about their own lives, and they really care about their children, okay? Just like us. Just like us, they're trying to give themselves and their children the best life they can, and they're trying to do that in circumstances that are very tough and very difficult for us in the developed world to understand and appreciate. When a child has a job, it's probably for a good reason, okay? It's probably because the best option available to the child is to have that job. And however bad that may seem that that kid has to work, the alternative is probably worse, okay? When you, in your infinite virtue and wisdom, step in and say, no, you can't try to help yourself in this particular way because it makes me feel uncomfortable, you are condemning that child to that worse alternative, okay? When something that people need is outlawed, people go around the law to get it. The child needs to work in order to survive, and they can't get a legal job, they will get an illegal job. And in that illegal job, the child is likely to lose whatever other protections the law would otherwise provide them. You know, things like workplace safety regulations or contract law, or even their basic personal rights they're not going to have if they're working underground, okay? If you don't like the idea of a child working a legal job, you should be far more upset by the idea of a child working in the black market. But when you impose child labor laws on a society that cannot yet afford to have children not work, that's exactly what you are doing. You're condemning those children to work in the black market. It sucks that there's still societies in the world like this. And if you want to talk about how to solve poverty, yeah, great. So do I. I'd love to do that because that's the only way to end child labor, to get people wealthy enough that they can afford to end it. Until then, please don't sabotage the lives of poor people just to make your rich ass feel more virtuous. Hand it over to Scott.
Yeah, so my debate partner here is giving forth the argument, and what I want to do throughout this debate and the intro as well is give some of the data so that we understand this, because a good argument is a good argument, but without data to back it up, it's not there. And fortunately for us, almost all of the data, tons of studies and surveys and organizations absolutely support our opinions. So just one example of that to begin with is in 1992, Senator Harkin, he proposed a bill known as the Child Labor Deterrence Act. Fortunately, it did not pass, and this bill was designed to boycott goods from countries where the ready-made garment industry was using child labor. Unfortunately, what did happen is in Bangladesh, the individuals that were hiring these children for about 53 cents an hour, I know it sounds horrible, right? They fired roughly 50,000 of them. And in 1997, both Oxfam and UNICEF did a study to find out, well, what happened to these children that were fired from child labor? And what they found was that a majority of them ended up homeless, ended up in worse jobs where they were more likely to be injured in agriculture and the service industry. And most importantly, thousands of young girls disappeared into child sex trafficking and prostitution. And I'll finish off our conversation by quoting Nobel Prize winning left-wing economist Paul Krugman talking about this very issue of what happened in Bangladesh. The direct result was that Bangladeshi textile factories stopped employing children. But did the children go back to school? Did they return to happy homes? Not according to Oxfam, which found that the displaced child workers ended up in even worse jobs or on the streets, and that a significant number were forced into prostitution. I yield my time.
Okay, now Toontown, you will be allotted 5 minutes as well. You can start in any way you want.
All right. So child labor is inherently exploitative by definition, right? I think our opponents are arguing for youth employment. So there is a bit of a definitional issue here. But for the sake of the argument, I'll expand it to any form of youth employment. So, child labor is a violation of human rights and has been demonstrated time and time again to hinder children's development, potentially leading to severe lifelong physical or psychological damage. Evidence points to a strong link between household poverty and childhood labor, and child labor perpetuates poverty across generations by keeping low socioeconomic children out of education and limiting their prospects for upward social mobility. So, this lowering of the entire human capacity of a society has been linked to slow economic growth and social development for both developing and non-developing countries. Recent studies by the ILO, which is the International Labor Organization, have demonstrated that the move towards the elimination of child labor and developing economies could generate a large economic benefits, far greater than the costs, which are mostly associated with investment in better schooling and social services.
She should not have used the ILO.
Child labor laws are a useful tool that should not be abandoned, not just for the betterment of children, as my opponents thought that I was going to be arguing, right? Or for their dignity, but for the betterment of society as a whole. And I'd like Chud to now speak.
Okay, really simple. Child labor laws are necessary to prevent perverse incentives that will lead children to dangerous, exploitative circumstances. At the end of the day, this comes down to consent. If you think children can consent to all forms of labor without any legal oversight, I'd have to ask the ANCAPs, what else do you think children can consent to?
I knew that was going to come up too.
Is that your ending of your opening study? Okay, so now it is an open period. You guys have you guys have about.
Why do you guys think there should be 13-year-old strippers?
Pause. I'm going to answer aristocracies before I go to your meme question, but don't worry, I have an answer for you.
It's a serious question.
No, it's not.
I didn't listen to opening statements.
If you don't, pause. Chud Logic. Chud Logic. Chud Logic. Chud Logic. If you can't tell the Chud Logic, if you can't tell the difference between someone working in the textile industry and sex prostitution and things like that, which you're hinting at, then I have a question. Are you a pedophile?
Well, no, I'm not a pedophile. You're the
okay, all right. Well, then you know the difference. So shut the fuck up. No, you know there's a difference.
Chad, I think you asked a reasonable question. What can a child consent to?
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
So let me ask you this. Do you think a child could consent to, say, go to school?
I think a child can consent to go to school, yeah, but that's a place of like safety and learning for them, isn't it? It's not being a stripper. Are you saying that going to school is like being a stripper for a kid? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't think a child can be a stripper. I would not like that at all. I don't think that should be legal. But
sure, that's great. But then how
children being strippers? We're talking about children being able to work at a job.
Okay, but you say you want to abolish child labor laws. Child labor laws are the thing that stops children from being strippers.
All right, so we have to deal.
I'm pretty sure child sexual exploitation laws are what prevent that.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have to deal with the low IQ memes of Chud Logic before we can get to a serious debate with aristocracy.
So under an society, would there be laws or not? I thought it was anarchism.
So here's how you have to understand, and I understand. What we're talking about is consent, right? That's the question that you're asking, and you don't understand how libertarians have consent because you haven't read about it, and I understand that. So let me educate you.
It's a meme ideology. It's a waste of time, isn't it?
Right. You're memeing. I get it. Let me explain.
Libertarians don't matter. We're only talking about child labor laws here.
I get it. You want 13-year-old strippers. I get it. It's fine. I get it. Listen, I know that's what you want. It's all good. Anyway, sorry, I've talked a lot. Let someone else talk.
Yeah. So again, you're memeing, and you're not having a serious debate, and I don't know why you're here if that's all you're going to do. But anyways, if you want to talk about why children can consent to a paper route, right, and why children can't consent to being child strippers, it's a very simple thing, right? A libertarian philosophy of children's rights is based off of the idea that children are emerging adults, right? They are not yet adults because they are not psychologically able to express their will. And so parents are considered guardians or custodians of their will and of their rights. Now, so under certain circumstances, such as bad economic circumstances, or because let's say they want the child to work in the family restaurant sometimes, or they want the kid to have a paper route, or they want the kid to be able to go out and cut grass in the neighborhood. The reason parents are allowed as custodians of their rights and their will to let them do these things is because they are not inherently exploitative, given the circumstances in which they live under. In the textile industry, that is abject poverty where they are trying to get food. In America, that's something like cutting grass or a paper route or a lemonade stand. The fact of the matter is the moment that you use your power as a parent, as a guardian of the custodian of the child's will and rights to subject them to physical damage of their body or to subject them to psychological trauma of being in the sex industry as a child, you forego your rights as a parent over this individual.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, well, I get it,
bro. What the fuck?
Right. You started realizing that I was right, and then you
things
interrupted.
that we make children do, right? We make them go to school.
All I hear you is trying to justify 13-year-old strippers. That's all I can hear.
You're a fucking liar. Stop.
In their best interest, right? We know it's good for kids to eat broccoli. It's good for them to go to school. They may not like it. It may be hard. It may be stressful even. But we do it because it's in their best interest. It's good for their lives. And unfortunately, there are places in the world where that are poor enough where a kid going to work and making money for the family is actually in their best interest.
Damn,
I don't see why.
That's a huge claim that you just made, that it's in their best interest. Can you actually?
Because if they don't, they'll starve or be homeless. Like these, they need to.
Wait, are there other alternatives to
so
getting food?
Aristocracy, did you get most of your debate resources from the
If
ILO?
there were alternatives, they'd be doing them.
I'm just curious, did you get most of your information from the ILO surveys for tonight?
I got some of my information from the ILO surveys.
Okay,
but I
right.
got it basically from the entire structure of the current literature.
Okay,
on this
no,
subject.
that's fine. You have other
There's a
sources, right?
consensus. There's an international consensus on child labor laws.
Right. So what we know about the ILO, right, unlike, let's say, World Bank surveys, is that they're a lot more focused on getting rid of child labor completely, and they're very ideologically biased in that part. So when you actually dig into ILO papers, right, as opposed to just reading like their large reports, you can look and see that a lot of the data that they put in their large reports is not actually accurate once you go into the reports. So for example, you can look at the Ugandan survey, right? And what the ILO will say is, oh, they have 35% child labor, right? But when you actually go into it, what you actually find is that unlike the World Bank, that's considering child labor to be 14 and below, they're considering anyone that is a day under 18 to be child labor, number one. And number two, they're considering anyone that is under a day younger than 18 that has a part-time job to be part of child labor. So me, when I was working at Burger King, right, and I was in high school, would be considered someone that is being exploited via child labor. So there are some issues with using ILO data, and the way that they do their studies is not necessarily accurate. And so, like, I would say, like, maybe we shouldn't be using that necessarily as a resource.
Well, I think the data
forward.
sounds good. I think I like ILO data. Let's use that. It sounds good to me.
Right, of course.
I'm supporting Eris on that point.
Could you Google child labor definition and just read out the definition for us?
You want me to give Google's definition? Hold on. I don't know how long it's been since I've actually used Google. I might got to get it off of DuckDuckGo, guys. So I'm not sure why you want to. I'm not sure why you do it. So child labor.
Searches going on DuckDuckGo. Interesting.
All right. So what is Google's definition of child labor? I'm not giving a specific definition so far. Let me put in definition. The use of children in industry or business, especially when illegal or considered inhumane. That's Google's definition.
Considered inhumane is a part of the definition. Therefore, the concept of child labor does not equal youth employment. You seem to think that
no, I'm talking about ILO's data,
employment, right? And you guys didn't argue. Let's debate youth employment, right?
Aristocracy.
I would be like, okay, that's a different story, right?
No, Aristocracy. No, you just proved my point.
I didn't interrupt you. I didn't interrupt you.
We'll let Aristocracy go.
Right. When it comes to the actual definition, right? The definition that the ILO uses, okay, is the definition that's internationally recognized, right? Which you actually just read out, which they might use different words, but it all basically means the same thing, that child labor is a specific type of youth employment that is inherently exploitative, right? Which is obviously subjective based on people's moral standards, etc., right? And this is why you have different child labor laws, right, in different locations. It's one of the use of child labor laws because you can kind of change it, right, depending on what's useful and what's important for that society as a whole. For example, there used to be a huge problem with child labor in the 19th century, particularly when it came to here, let me find this 1 second.
Well, while you're looking for that, two things real quick. One, you proved my point.
Right,
well, you said you were looking for something.
A childhood labor issue, particularly when it came to children working in cotton mills, right? And then if they found out and children would regularly be hired for cotton mills because they could only get into the smallest areas and they could also be paid incredibly lowly, right? So Oh, so to this day, we still have rules that there are specific rules that it's harsher. It's harder to, as a child, to work in a cotton mill than it is to work, say, as an actor in a studio, right? And this is one of the reasons why I'm so shocked that you guys agree to argue this, right? Because you could actually say that all childhood youth employment is fine, but let's just ban one thing, and then we would just win the debate because at least it's had one kind of use.
Right. So two things. Number one, by asking me to give this definition that you want to use as the internationally recognized, you prove my point about what I was saying about the island, right? Because they report numbers that are not child labor. They include youth unemployment, which was what I was trying to explain to you. So I appreciate you proving me right there.
Don't do that.
The second thing that I wanted to say is that no, what we're debating is child labor laws. Not debating child labor and youth unemployment, right? Because child labor laws can affect both child labor and youth unemployment. And so that's the distinction here, is that the debate is about child labor laws.
Do you think 6-year-olds should be able to work?
Should be able to work?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty hard for them to work.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine a scenario
Well,
where
no,
it would
no,
make sense.
No, answer my question. If there was a suitable job that was found for a 6-year-old, you want to abolish all child labor laws, so you think a 6-year-old should be able to go and work somewhere, correct?
Well,
If my choice is between 6-year-old works or 6-year-old starves, I'll take work.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you?
Fair enough.
Well,
But
wait, no. I'm not saying that's the choice.
What
I'm
circumstances do you
I'm
think
saying,
a 6-year-old works?
well, I don't know.
What-
You're the one that the thing that stops children from going to work is labor laws, and you want to abolish them. So presumably you would be fine with a 6-year-old going to work because you don't want to have
No,
labor
the
laws
thing
for
that
children.
stops them from working is not needing to. Is being.
you know,
able to
I've seen
afford not to work.
6-year-olds working, right? You know, in one of my visits to New York City and Chinatown.
What's with all that? Why can't you
right?
just answer the question? It's a simple question, yes or no. But you can't
Why are
seem
you
to answer it.
interrupting
You're
me?
fucking
Why
wiggling around.
are you interrupting me
You're
with
wiggling
more
around the
memes?
fucking question because you know it makes you look terrible.
No, you're trying to engage in
You're
memes instead of a
dodging.
serious
Oh, okay,
debate. I'm
okay,
not
okay.
dodging. I'm
Sorry, you wanna
specifically
abolish-
giving an
It's really simple.
I'm specifically giving an example.
Stop. Okay. So one of the Hippy Dippy rules is when I'm talking, nobody else is talking. And so I'm going to allow Fabian to respond. And then
Go
if
on.
you think he dodged Chud, then you can jump on him after he's done responding. Fabian?
Okay.
Yeah,
No problem.
so I've seen there's two examples. One we all know about, and the one that's anecdotal, right? So I've seen 6-year-olds working. When I went to, visit one of the many times I went to New York City, I went deep into Chinatown and I've seen 6-year-olds, maybe they were 7 or 8, very young, very, very young, small children helping out in the family business and learning a little bit of the trade, learning a little bit how customer service is done and getting good, valuable experience that helped them with their family. And also because they're poor, which we will argue with tons of data, they probably couldn't afford daycare. And so they're there helping the family and learning how business works. And it's actually a positive thing. And also, of course, everyone in the audience has seen childhood actors. There are 6-year-old actors that are working in the entertainment industry.
There's a lot of words. There's a lot of words here.
Yeah, you
I'm
just keep saying I'm saying a
asking-
lot of words, right? And I'm giving you
are saying a lot
examples
of
and
words. It's
defeating your
boring. I'm
meme
bored
arguments.
of you talking. I'm bored of you talking. I just want to
Well,
say.
if you're so bored, you
wanna
should
give up?
leave.
You want to concede? That's fine.
I'm not going to concede because you're fucking idiots. Here's the situation, okay?
Can you
6-year-old
substantiate that?
Substantiate what? That you're a fucking.
We said I'm a fucking idiot,
idiots.
so prove it.
Yeah, you're an ANCAP. So there's your proof right there. So listen, here's
okay.
the situation, okay?
And what
So,
are you? A
6-year-old
socialist, right? You must be an idiot.
Okay, well that's just the uno reverso. Good one.
Yeah,
Here's the
exactly.
situation, okay? There's no child labor laws, so a 6-year-old, in your mind, then can go and sign a contract to go and work for a company, and they can just go and work for that company, correct?
No.
Well, what's going to stop them if there's no law stopping them?
They're 6 years old. They don't have the ability to sign
Well,
contracts.
They might stop them, or their parents might stop them, or
But there's no
parents
law
might
to
say,
stop
I don't
them,
want my
right?
6-year-old
There's
to do
no
that.
legal. There's
But
no
if the
legal
parents are-
framework for which to stop them.
Do you think that parents hate their children? Do you think that parents of the third world hate their children, and that's why they send them to work? Like
Well,
what?
no, of course not. But what I'm saying to you, this is the whole point why labor laws are necessary,
Thank
right?
you.
Because it prevents perverse incentives.
Because otherwise, like, parents
at
would
least
just
them being
send all the kids
exploited.
to work
Parents do
because
hate their
parents hate their
children.
like.
Okay, wait. I didn't hear what Chud's response to the question was.
And
Chud?
also, some parents do hate their children, yeah. And some of them, because they're so poor, they would just see them as a way of sending them off to work, prevents them from going to school. And I think it's also worth noting, you keep pointing to like, the global south as some bastion of child labor rights or something like that. The UN is actually trying to abolish child labor globally because child labor is considered by most normal people who aren't totally fucking insane to be really bad. So actually the
Of course,
world
they're trying to
is working
abolish it.
against
Everybody
you.
wants to see child labor go away.
Absolutely.
You're saying that
Sure.
child labor laws are not a good.
But you're
way to
saying
do
there
that.
should be no laws whatsoever. So that would mean then there's,
No, I don't think. I don't think laws are going to help. They're not
Okay.
addressing the problem. You're just
They're not-
so there's
they're
no
not
laws
fixing
in
the
place
issue.
then.
You're just hiding
But
the
there's no
symptom
laws
of
in
the
place
problem.
that
The
prevent
problem
them from
is
getting
that-
exploited. It's crazy.
Real quick.
Stop. Wait. Okay, I didn't hear anything last username said, so could you repeat that, please?
The problem is poverty. Poverty is what causes child labor. And making child labor laws is not going to make poverty go away. It's actually going to make it worse, okay? Poverty is a complicated problem. You can't solve it with these sort of knee-jerk, feel-good laws.
And I
It's a
don't think that
difficult
just
problem.
having unrepentant child labor without any legislation to protect children is good. I think we need to very least have some measures in place to protect children if
so-
they absolutely have to engage in labor.
So let's
You're
look at
suggesting
Costa
an
Rica.
abolishment.
Well, there are laws to protect them if they have to engage in labor.
What's Costa
But
Rica
in order
got
to
to
do
do
that,
with
their jobs have to be legal, right? You have to be working legally in order to have legal protections, things like workplace safety, or things like the law enforcing your contract, or making sure that your boss isn't violating your rights. In order to have that, it has to be a legal job. If they're working illegally and get paid under the table, they lose all that protection. It's a much worse situation.
This is exactly why we
Driving them
described
out of
how children actually became what you like to meme as child strippers. It was child labor laws and the threat of child labor laws that created child strippers, not the other way around. As a matter of fact, in
That's not
Costa
true.
Rica,
That's not true.
No, I mean I literally quoted Paul Krugman at you. Like I can't give you a
I
more
don't give a shit
friendly
about
source.
Paul Krugman. Who even is that? Sounds like a fucking nerd.
Nobel Prize winning left wing economist,
blah,
and
blah, blah.
and also
I mean, Obama won a
1997
Nobel
UNICEF.
Prize, like-
Right. Oh, so let's look at
boring.
Costa Rica, right? So
Boring.
you brought the ILO again, right? Those surveys. So Costa Rica, for example, has child labor laws. It says that children under the age of 15 cannot work. And despite that, 43% of the youth labor in Costa Rica are under the age of 15. And we have countless examples of this from studies in America as well. There are a ton of studies, Golden and Katz 2003, that show that compulsory education laws and minimum wage laws that were designed to stop child labor in certain states in America compared to states that didn't have them had less than a 5% increase on the likelihood of high school attendance. And Moeling 1999 showed that there was no statistic difference in 1880, 1900, and 1910 in America between states that had child labor laws and states that didn't have child labor laws, and how much youth employment and child labor existed.
Not the laws that make it go away. It's the wealth.
Blah, 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 blah. Studies, boring. Okay, it's a
I
little
know,
fucking
they
bullshit.
are boring. It's true. Studies are really boring. The truth is really
Situation,
fucking
right?
boring.
It's
It's
Okay.
not nearly
Situation.
fun.
Your solution is
but the
insane.
scientific consensus,
Moralizing.
even if studies are boring, right? I don't want them to come under this impression that like the studies are on their side. Like the consensus by historians, the consensus by international human rights experts, right? All agree that the studies are actually on our side, right? And I can demonstrate that, and it's not just from the ILO, right? Like one of the best studies is actually from Eric V. Emmons, okay, from Amherst Education. Here, I will post in chat.
Where are you posting? Oh, in the Discord chat?
Oh, I was posting it in Hippy Dippy. Oh, it didn't. Oops.
In voice text, I'm assuming?
We're probably not going to be able to read a study right now, but if you could summarize it.
Right. So 218 million children work in the world today. 70% are in activities classified as child labor under local laws. While in policy circles, child labor is often viewed as a rights issue, it's also an economic issue, right? Working children are both a cause and a consequence of a lack of economic development. Why? So they agreed with you on one end, right, that it is also a consequence, but it's also a cause, and it's very hard to figure out what ends up being the larger issue. This is why child labor laws are not the answer to poverty, but they're part of the answer to poverty. And if we look at, for example, the United States, in 1890, childhood labor reached basically its peak of where 18% of all children in the United States were being exploited in child labor. Right. By the 1930s, after a series of laws, right, that helped poverty, that helped work conditions, that employed women, right, and that also started to limit child labor, right, and make child labor more costly, childhood labor had actually dropped to 5%, right? And these are going by the very different definitions of the ILO that you claim the ILO was using, which was not even true.
Yeah. So again, it was, and to make your argument even stronger, it was 25% of boys and 18%. But again, the problem is that we actually have economists that look at, was there a statistically significant difference in states that had child labor laws and states that didn't have child labor laws? And what they found is there's no statistically significant difference. It completely defeats your argument, right? What the reason was, and the reason Fair Labor Standards Act in 1938 came about, it was while child labor was already well on its way out, is because what we have found over and over and over again is that once in today's dollars, we get a little bit over 10,000, 11,000, the number shifts a little bit based off of inflation. But once you get over around $10,000, $11,000 per person in terms of their income, child labor basically disappears, right? So it's an economic issue. And again, we can look at, Edmonds and Pavnik 2005 that found that 73% of the amount of child labor can be explained by one variable, which is just GDP.
Yeah, as people get wealthy, the child labor goes away, and people make laws against child labor because it's politically good, right? People like the feeling of making the laws, like to vote for people to do that. But it's really hard to tell if it's the laws causing the child labor to go away or the child labor causing the laws. And according to economic studies, it's actually the wealth that makes it go away.
Listen, you fucking nerds have forgotten one important point, okay, which I'm surprised about because you're reading all these fucking boring ass studies. What about compulsory schooling? That had a massive impact on the reduction in child labor. Compulsory schooling could in fact have a big impact in the situation in these developing countries.
Unfortunately, we were making you go to sleep, so you didn't hear one of the studies because it's too boring to you because you can't be bothered doing research.
You're speaking for fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, it was like I said, compulsory education laws and minimum wage laws had less than a 5% impact on high school attendance and child labor. 7%.
Sounds like you're just picking a detail out of the hat to try and make your point. Load of bullshit.
Wait,
compulsory education helps.
You know where that quote comes from?
From Golden and Katz 2003, yeah. Economists.
That quote is by Edmund, the guy that did the study that I just linked.
Okay, well, let's look at a different study.
It's
a different. That's a different. No, Edmonds and Pavnik is a different study.
You just been fucking demolished. You're struggling, both of you.
Also, you didn't post it.
Stop. I didn't hear what Eris said. Could you say that again?
The quote that he did is from someone named Eric V. Edmonds, right? Who was the research associate at the National Bureau of Economic Research in Cambridge.
No, this is from Golden and Katz 2003, and it wasn't a quote.
Floundering. He's how they flounder. Oh dear.
No, it's a different study.
Silence.
Feel bad for you. But, yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not silent. I'm saying what she's saying simply isn't true. It's from a different study.
Eris, your description
they could say the same thing. Sure.
Study didn't sound like it actually supported your argument. The conclusion was something like, well, the labor laws and the poverty going away are sort of have to go hand in hand. But I mean, it doesn't really establish.
Is that rising incomes are associated with improvement. However, these factors all lead in declines to the economic activity of children in the long term, right? And
rising wages are associated with improvement in child labor.
This study was actually what was used as evidence for child labor laws in the international world, right? You guys are using arguments that were used literally.
Does it establish causation, though? Does it establish that the law is actually okay? How does it do that?
Yes, how does it do that? I mean, like you didn't post the study, and so we would like for you to explain it to us.
Yeah, it's in a PDF. I tried to post it, but it didn't work. 1 second. Chad, you can take over while I do this. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. So, listen, clearly you guys are floundering a bit. Eris has caught you out a bit there, and now you're desperately trying to see what the study.
I'm not floundering. I want to know what her study is.
Projecting a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean,
no, not at all. Listen, you guys are falling over each other to get your points out. It's kind of embarrassing for you, but it is what it is.
You haven't made any points.
I just want an answer. No, I have. I just want an answer to my earlier question. Do you think, yes or no, a 6-year-old, should there be any law preventing a 6-year-old from going and signing a contract and working?
We
Do
already
you think a
explained this.
6-year-old
You
well, no,
went to
you
sleep.
didn't answer me. You just went on
The
a
answer is
fucking
no.
massive
The
diatribe.
answer is no. We
What's
already
gonna
answered
stop them
this.
if there isn't a law to stop them, though?
What to stop them is not wanting to do
What are
it.
you talking
It's just
about?
terrible. People
But
usually
if there's
don't
no
like
legal
doing things that are
framework,
terrible.
yeah, but you're
or
just
making their kids do
relying on
things that are
parents.
terrible.
But
That's
you're
what's
just
to
relying
stop
on
them.
parents doing the right
To
thing.
stop them is
I
being-
think that's stupid. I think that's insane. Like some parents are not going to do the right thing, and that's why you need
Some
laws in
parents
place
are not
in
good
order
parents.
to.
But
Yeah, exactly.
most
You
parents
need the law
care
in
about
order
their
to
kids
motivate them to do the
more
right thing.
than anybody else in the world, than any
No, this is
lawmaker,
stupid.
than any activist.
There's loads of. What about
than anybody
abusive
else,
parents?
okay?
Do you know abusive
Generally
parents
speaking,
exist? Do you know abusive
think-
parents exist? Have you heard of abusive
Chud, of
parents
course.
before?
Of course, we know
Sure they
this.
do. Right.
No one is saying we're
Legal
not
framework
What
saying.
else
to
exists?
protect children from
Abusive
abusive
law.
parents.
Okay, stop. Okay,
Abusive-
stop. Okay, wait. Okay, so I can't hear myself think. So the question was asked, do you know that abusive parents exist? So I would like to hear either Fabian or Last Username respond to that.
He can respond. Answer the original question.
Abusive parents exist, but most parents care about their kids. And I think generally speaking, parents care about their kids more than anybody else in the world.
It doesn't
more than
matter what most
lawmakers,
parents do.
more than activists,
You
more
need
than
to
the
look
UN.
at what abusive parents do and consider what they're going to do and have
Chud
laws in
Logic.
place to make sure kids aren't harmed.
Chud Logic.
You can
Chud
make.
Logic.
I have no
Okay.
problem with laws against child abuse.
Right.
Laws that say parents can't hurt their kids or torture them or
Child
Or
labor
contract
is
law.
part of
unnecessary.
child abuse laws. Don't you realize
But
that?
a law
It's a
that
subset
just
of that.
arbitrarily excludes an option for a family that may be their best option. That may be, you can imagine being something that a parent who really cares about their kid makes them do because it's the best option, because the alternative is worse. I don't see any reason to make a law against that. I
Your
don't see any
argument is
reason to
literally
doubt that
most
parent.
parents love their kids, so we don't need to worry about it. And that's silly. Like, obviously, there's going to be some parents that act badly, okay? And we need to bear that in mind. And that's why we need strong labor laws, because children
Laws
cannot
against child
themselves.
Those two are not the same thing.
Why should we have child
We
abuse
already-
laws?
we
if
already
child-
said-
parents always
Wait,
protect their
I'm
children.
sorry. Everybody's
I've been trying to
at the
answer
same
this.
time. Okay, Fabian, you want
Yes, I'm just trying to answer this. You keep trying to conflate child labor laws, right, with all laws in existence and how we want no laws whatsoever, because I'm assuming you think that anarchism means no laws when it means no rulers, right? We're talking about economic laws. We're talking about laws that are enforced in an entirely different way, right, which is not what the debate is about. You're trying to push this debate into a different direction because you're floundering. And Aristocracy is doing
I'm
a
not
great
floundering
job.
at all. I've asked you one question and you're fucking floundering like I've never seen before.
Oh my God, dude, we've answered your questions like 10 times and we've let you control the
Okay,
flow
can
of
we-
this
can we
debate
go back
because
to
you're a
the
rude
debate?
You've
asshole.
answered the question.
Okay, so can
Well,
we go
look
back
like-
to
Name
the
one
study?
question
you
we
did
haven't.
quote You did quote Eric Edmonds, right?
I did not.
Before you
Please stop
quoted
saying
other
that.
person.
Please stop
Okay,
saying that.
No, you did.
No, I
And
did not.
So the
I
conclusion
didn't.
that Eric,
Please stop
that-
lying. Please stop
The conclusion
lying.
that Eric Edmonds, I'm speaking. The conclusion that Eric Edmonds comes to in the study, right, which I linked for you. I had to upload it because it's a file, right? It's a PDF. If you can open it right now, right? The conclusion that he comes to, if you don't want to read it right now, okay, is because of this impact of child labor on economic growth, there is a strong case that child labor policy should be a part of policy efforts to promote sustainable development without appealing to human rights issues, even though those issues can be important, right? He literally argues. You guys thought that we were going to come here and say like, oh, like poor children, it sucks that they have to be in the chimney, right? No, like it's been demonstrated by science over and over and over again, right? And this study is considered literally the best for this.
Okay, right, but I need his
And-
actual. Could you
and-
give
It's
me?
not a very strong, like,
You're
Eric
saying
Edmonds
you're doing
said,
it.
right,
You're doing
that,
it.
that it's
Wait.
for the good of an entire society, right? That child
Aristocracy.
labor laws be enacted, right?
Aristocracy. Listen.
that sounds
Right,
like pretty,
what I'm
like,
doing-
weaselly language
wait,
to me.
okay,
Like,
okay,
child labor laws
okay,
need to be
wait,
part
wait.
of a, like,
Okay, we gotta have one of you talk, Fabian or
One
Lexi.
second. I'll be real quick, right? Number one, you keep calling me a liar by saying that I'm quoting Edmonds when I'm telling you that I'm quoting a different economy in a different study, and then I'm not quoting that I read
You
studies
quoted Edmonds
and
right before him.
I quoted Edmonds in a different one
You
where I
did.
said that 73% could be
did quote
explained by variation in
So you
GDP.
did
But
quote
again,
Edmonds.
that's not
Thank
a
you. Okay.
quote. That is one study that I'm using. You were saying it to another. If you were confused in that
No.
miscommunication can be swept
No, I-
aside and we can understand that. The second thing is that I don't
So you
want
did
to
quote him.
hear,
That's what I was saying.
again, no. I didn't quote
You quoted
anybody.
someone that disagrees with your entire point and comes to the conclusion that we're correct.
Right,
and you're incorrect.
because here's the
Or your
funny
own
thing. I'm not engaging in logical fallacies of appeal to authority. What I'm doing is I'm using data to support arguments that I'm making. It's called a deductive argument. What you're doing is saying this guy, what you're doing is saying this guy says I'm right, therefore I'm right. And what I would like to do is I would like to hear you make an actual deductive argument.
Breaking down an argument that you used when you quoted him.
No, that's not what's happening.
Eris, okay? So he thinks that child labor laws are one of the things that that help improve the child labor situation, along with other economic improvements.
Yes.
Why? What's the methodology? Like, why did he come to that conclusion?
I mean, it's mentioned extensively in the study. It's incredibly complex.
Well, if you read the study, you should be able to paraphrase it to us.
We got time.
I'm asking for your argument.
Why
and
are child labor
evidence.
laws?
Okay, I'll give you an example, right? One of the example, right, is that they actually made, and they enacted this law, I think, in the United States in the late 19th century, where they made it so that it was actually more expensive to hire children, right? And they did that, right, by when you hired adults, you had. And an adult got injured at the time, right? The adult was responsible for their own injury and their own health and their own care and all that stuff, right? So they made it that the company, whatever company that they're working for, the workforce is actually the company is actually responsible for the care of the child. So even though they could pay children less, it ended up being more expensive, and that was a consequence to leading directly, right, to making children just not as useful to hire anymore. Right, that's a child labor law.
Okay, fine. But why?
This is why
what's the evidence that that's a good thing?
Child labor laws.
What's the evidence that
argue child labor laws from an ANCAP perspective? I mean, I'm not an ANCAP, right? But I could actually just say that, like, you know, that children should be able to work. They should be able to work in mills. They should be able to work in these really like nasty conditions. But they should they at least need to go to school 2 hours a day. Okay, that's a child labor law. Something as minimum as that. Right, so it's like I feel like just by agreeing to this debate, you guys like just set yourself up. I was completely shocked. You guys were so confident. You're just
describing laws. You're describing laws.
You want to abolish these laws. You want to abolish these minimum protections. You want to abolish these minimum protections. That's what you said. You should want to abolish child labor laws.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to actually pick up and read your study, but for whatever reason the file seems to not. You can see I'm doing it on stream. I'm downloading it.
If you disincentivize hiring children, yes, you will have less child labor, but you will also cause economic hardship for those families that depended on their children working, or those children that were depending on their jobs to work.
Give them welfare.
What's the evidence that that's going to be a net
Give
benefit?
them welfare instead. Easy, problem solved.
These
Give
are
them
not
welfare.
places. These places don't have welfare.
That's why it's always done in tandem with other economic laws. It doesn't happen by itself.
Easy
right?
peasy.
You do it with welfare laws, or if you don't like welfare, then you could do it with adoption laws.
So you have a way to improve the economy and make everyone richer.
Right.
Why is it better to also have child labor laws instead of just making the economy more?
The government gives the family some money, and the kid doesn't have to go work at the fucking mill and get their fingers cut off by some bullshit machine. Easy peasy, problem solved. End of debate.
Why?
See the
you
problem.
don't need the child labor law to do that. You just need to make them wealthy.
No. So here's another thing.
Tax rich people more. Easy peasy.
Right. So when you bring up it's interesting that you bring up like textiles and you bring up cotton and things like that, because that is a very small minority of what child labor. The majority of child labor exists in agriculture and in the service industry. The highest country in the world in terms of percentage of child labor being done in manufacturing is India at 14%. And almost every other country is under 10%, right? So I understand that you're targeting this specific type of child labor. But again, like it's really important that you understand that
child labor you would allow.
Also, the most common employers of children are their parents.
See, the thing
most
is
children
that
are employed by their parents.
Right. And the thing is that agriculture has a higher rate of injury than does manufacturing. And agriculture is the most common form of child labor, right? So when you start doing things like, oh, we need to stop these children from working in sweatshops and create laws to do these things, again, even if they get legitimate child labor because it was targeted towards what you deem to be more dangerous, you're actually incorrect. It's agriculture that's the real problem here and not textiles, because the rate of injury in textiles is 9%. And funny enough, the rate of injury of a person on a football team in high school in America is 13.5%. Being in a local football team in America is more dangerous than working in a ready-made garment industry in Bangladesh, right? So again, these are good opportunities for children, and these are ways that children can improve their lives. And the fact of the matter is that the reason they do this is because they're poor.
Last username.
Football as well. Let's get rid of that too. It sounds dangerous. Get rid of that too.
Okay. Last username, right? You brought up as a way to argue for your position that as a way to kind of like downplay the type of exploitative labor that these children go through, right? That it's usually being done by their parents. Children are usually employed by their parents, right? Which is, you're 100% correct on that. But children are on average abused the most by their parents. Do you know statistically who in relation rapes little girls the most?
Yeah, parents are a big source of abuse. Do you think that these children, that these parents are making their children work?
Their fathers are actually
as a way to abuse their children.
The majority of child
pornography. Do you think the parents are making? Do you think that the parents making their kids work is actually just abuse, like because they're mean, like dysfunctional parents?
Not necessarily. Or do you think it's
just because?
But I think that there are certain types of work that would be abuse.
So then, what's the point?
Therefore,
so, okay, maybe
there are certain types of work that would be abuse, right? So if they just say,
they're unpleasant,
I
acknowledge that.
Like
I don't like that kids have to work on the parents' farm to survive.
After school or something, right? I wouldn't consider that abuse, okay? But if they're like, okay, work in our chimney, right? And work with all like the ashes from Chernobyl, even though you're probably gonna get some weird disease after. Okay, and we have 8 other children, which is pretty common in areas where child labor is a pandemic. I would consider that pretty abusive.
I don't think it's abuse if it's the best option available for the family and for the child. I don't think that's abuse.
But it's being demonstrated over and over again that it is not the best option available. We have
How?
other
You've
options.
yet to make an argument on that.
We have other options to feed children. Right?
Which is?
Rather than just talking all the time.
And if you do, great, then do it. But until it's done, don't sabotage.
Right. It doesn't make any sense. Like you're
maybe
not
there is a way
matching
to
the
make
data.
everyone rich. Sure, we can talk about that.
But they have been done. We've done it in the West. We've done
Yes,
yeah, we have done it in the West.
We did, and child labor laws.
And it's happening everywhere
and
else
again,
too.
the data has shown that child labor laws had little to no statistical difference
I don't know why you in that.
I don't think that's true. And also,
it has been shown. It has been shown.
Schooling.
It has been shown that compulsory education laws, child labor laws, and minimum wage laws had little to no effect on child labor and rates of child labor. What has an effect on child labor is the amount of money that a person makes. So if we look at 2013 World Bank, if people make 600 to 2K, the child labor rate is roughly 34.04%. 2K to 6K, a little over 7%. 6K to 11K, a little under 5%. 11K to 24K, 0.16%. And when the average income of an adult is above 24K, it's 0.01%. The root problem here is poverty.
Do you think that there's one solution for poverty?
I never said that there was one solution for poverty. Why would I think that?
Did I say that you said that? I'm asking.
Well, again, I said no.
Okay, so you don't, right? So, do you think that there could be multiple solutions to poverty that work together and that they have an entourage effect that when you put them together, they end up being stronger?
Absolutely.
So why do you think child labor policies can't be a part of that and can't be useful?
All of the data that I've been giving you thus far. That's why.
I don't see any logical or empirical reason.
But the experts
that's the
that
case.
go through these data that know.
I don't
way
want an
more than
appeal
any of
to
us in this
authority.
room.
I just want a
That's
good
not an
argument.
appeal to authority.
You're doing
not
an
true.
appeal to
The
authority
experts
yourself
didn't
on
say
that
that.
basis then, because you're appealing to the authority of your studies.
You don't-
You're
you
doing the
don't-
same thing you're accusing us of.
That's
What are
not
you
what
talking
an
about,
appeal to
fucking
authority
nerd?
is, Chud. You call me a nerd, but you're
You are.
honestly,
You're
you're
a
just
nerd.
like, you're not
Boring.
You're not able to keep up with aristocracy in the two of us. No, what I want to hear is an actual argument. When you say this expert says this in their conclusion of their study, what I want to hear is this data is the reason why this occurs, and then make an argument from it. I've yet to hear an actual argument from you.
I would have to read the entire study. It's so
Yeah,
fun.
that's what I did. We did research
No,
and then
I
we had
have to read the
data
study
and we
on
made
there. Obviously,
arguments.
I read the study when I was.
You did
preparing for
research
this,
to argue for
right?
13-year-old
Do you want me to
strippers.
read the entire
Crazy.
study on stream? Does Dylan really want that? Dylan, is that what you want? You want me to read the entire?
I just want you to
study
make an
on
argument.
stream?
No, we want you to read it off
Do you
stream
want
before
me-
the
people who
debate, and then
dedicate
Okay,
sound
I've got an
off.
argument. I've got a
Stop,
serious
stop,
point.
Stop,
Who
stop,
spend
everybody.
30
I got a serious
years-
point.
Everybody stop. Thank you. I don't care what I want. You can read what you want. You can make however arguments you want. I'm not going to advise you on what you should or shouldn't do. That's up to you.
Why do you want to
I
destroy
also
the
really
labor
don't
market?
want Chud to call me a nerd. Okay, I'm trying to impress him here.
Why would I answer such a weird question?
Well, you know, if you've done all this fucking research and all these books, you should know.
I should
What do you think
know
happens if
what
you
the
let
fuck you
child
talking
labor law? If you let child labor law start happening, what do you think happens to the employment market?
Well, again, like I showed in Costa Rica, right? The child
I
labor
don't care
laws
about
are
Costa
not.
Rica.
I know you don't
Costa
care
Rica.
about
Let's
data.
Talk about America. Let's talk
Okay.
about America. You want to
Awesome.
abolish child labor laws, correct?
In
Yes.
America?
Yes.
Sure. For different
Okay.
reasons. I mean, yeah.
Sure. So if you
Because
abolish
they're
child labor,
pointless.
no, listen, receive mode on you. You've spoken enough, nerd. Shut up. Here's the situation, okay? You allow a source of labor that is inevitably going to be cheaper to come to the fore in the labor market. What do you think companies are going to do? They're going to start
I'll answer that question
cheaper
for you.
forces of labor.
Yeah, it's
They're gonna be
awesome.
cheaper
It's
and
awesome.
worse.
So there's this thing in the market where that used to happen, right? Thomas Sowell actually talked a lot about this. It was his first job.
Thomas Sowell, okay,
and one,
yeah.
one of the things that he used to do when he was young to make a little extra cash is that he used to go into movie theaters, right? And he used to take people to their seat in a movie theater, and it was like this really cool thing, and it was a very cheap job. But once minimum wage laws came in, it was not actually child labor laws, but once minimum wage laws came in, what occurred was that job was
So is
no
this
longer
just an
economic.
anecdote? What happened to the studies? This is just an anecdote.
Okay.
So
And
now I
more
can
generally
only
speaking-
answer questions with studies now that you attack me for doing. So basically, no matter what
Well,
I
think
say,
it's
you're just
just
going to
a
meme and
position.
yell and not listen to me.
It's a position that you need to get a fucking Thomas Sowell and some job he did. I don't fucking care about any of that.
They're in a
Well,
free
you
market.
don't,
It's
well,
standing
why do you
correct.
ask
Children-
questions if you don't want to hear any answers and no answer is
Go on then,
satisfactory?
keep talking.
Because
I'll
you
allow
just
you
want
to
to
speak.
meme.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
I'll allow you to
Okay,
speak.
I
Go
first
on.
I want to address the appeal to authority thing. Like, first of all, I mean, you guys appeal to authority plenty of times. You literally did quotes, and then when Chud was like, "Who is this guy?" Yeah, you're like, "He won a Nobel Prize." So, anyways, an
was a
appeal
gift
to
to you.
authority doesn't work. It doesn't work when you are appealing to an expert in the field that you are arguing, right? Anyways, in the study that I linked you, right? If you just skim through it, right, it also says that childhood labor was linked to poor public health, and children faced higher rates of accidents than adults in
Linked to.
industrial jobs. Child laborers were also shorter. They weighed less, even when compared to their counterparts that were in the same economic position as they were. Right?
None of this contradicts what we're saying. You're just saying child labor
How?
is bad. We agree. It is
We
bad.
agree.
It's not.
None
that's
of-
not the
yeah,
issue.
none of
You
what
want to
you
remove all
said-
the safeguards that exist for child
The
labor.
issue is, what do you do
You
about
want
it?
to allow it to happen. You just are. It's
You want to
you
allow it
don't-
to happen more freely.
No,
with
what we're
less
saying
regulation.
is your solutions aren't helping. And if we want
Yeah.
to stop child labor, what we need to do is attack the actual problem. And instead, politicians want to make sweeping legislation and laws, and organizations want to work together to make laws. And often these have negative consequences that make the problem worse because they don't actually address the problem, which is education and poverty. And I know aristocracy is going to be like, but compulsory education is a child labor law. No, it's not. They're two different things. What I'm saying is that you actually need to solve the problem, and that child
We
labor
get rid of
laws do
child
not
labor,
solve the
but
problem.
more child labor. Yeah, that sounds intelligent.
Oh my God. Well, if you had listened to
response. That's
anything
fine.
that
No
we had
response. I
said,
get it. No
it's
response. I get it.
interesting that
It's
you guys
not
were,
no
I remember
response.
when you guys agreed to this debate, I was like shocked. I was like, this is crazy, right? Because it's one of those truisms that everyone normally accepts. Okay, But, I was intrigued, and I did some research, and I found out that there's actually a push by far-right Republicans to resurrect child labor, right? And it's kind of based on like these two key myths that they have to do with history, right? Which I was like, oh my God, history, that's my thing, that's so cool. And first, it's like that markets, not the government, wiped out child labor in the early 20th century. And second, that child labor was beneficial to the children's quote-unquote work ethic, okay, education and employment prospects. So the
Quick
history
question.
of child labor belies these assertions, and their rise in high political circles threatens to resurrect a problem in the United States and has developed world largely eradicated a century ago.
Quick question.
Yeah.
You nailed me down in the beginning of the debate and forced me to use Google's definition of child labor. And so can you actually substantiate the claim that quote unquote far right people somewhere want to bring back labor for children that you said must be inherently exploitative? Or are you simply talking about youth unemployment and now you're switching the words when you get to talk about the baddies on the right?
I'm not switching the words. I'm using their words.
So they
right?
specifically
They use
say
the term
we want
child labor
exploitative
because they are advocating specifically against child labor laws, right? Not
Okay.
youth employment laws. They're against child labor laws specifically.
Okay, so what type
I
of
think child labor laws are bad, even in developed countries, and they're at the very least unnecessary and probably even destructive, because there's probably
Stephen Moore.
situations where it would be really good for kids to get a job. I mean, there's lots of jobs that kids get that we let them get, and it doesn't seem to shock anybody, right? We don't recoil in horror at a paper boy or a child actor or a lemonade stand.
Well, hang on a sec. If you want to talk about child actors, abuse in Hollywood is absolutely rife. Corey Feldman talked about his experience of abuse as a child actor. So, you want to make that easier by abolishing the labor laws that exist. So you were literally
so you're talking about
there's no child labor laws that are
casting couch
stopping that.
and sexual abuse.
What are you talking about?
It's a problem not just with children in Hollywood, but with adults as well. And it's bad.
That's not true.
And we're not proposing that you remove the laws about that.
But
What happens if you're in a situation? I'll pose a hypothetical, right? You're in a situation where, we really need people to crack open peanuts, okay? And children are particularly good at cracking open peanuts. Okay? And it's really cheap to hire children, right? Because they don't need to fully earn their keep and all of that stuff, so you can pay them half as much. So, and everyone's really obsessed with peanut butter because we eradicated like a peanut allergy. So it's like a huge industry, and they start hiring, and then suddenly almost like most children, or say 60% of children, right, are literally being hired to crack these peanuts, okay? And the only skill that they develop is how to like really gnarl the teeth on the peanut, right? And do you think that's good
Using
for
their
society?
teeth?
Wait, do you think that's good for that? What do you think is going to happen to that?
I feel like that's
country,
bad for
right?
society
that
because
has
we're
an
all going to
entire
get
community
sick from
with
gross children putting their
children.
mouths on peanuts. I feel like we're all going to get sick. Like the FDA would have to step in at some point and stop this
Well, obviously,
using their teeth.
in this world,
Do you
germs
support the
don't
FDA as an
count.
ANCAP?
No.
No.
Okay.
FDA's
Well
killed
then that would have to
tens
go,
of
wouldn't it?
thousands
With
of
your
people.
ideal society, the FDA would be gone, so that would be a problem, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, there would be rating agencies.
seen
But
your
what are
ideal
you using the
society.
FDA as a point? Like
I've
you don't
seen
even
it.
want the
I've
FDA to
played Rust,
exist
and
because
it's
you're an idiot.
horrific.
You've
So the
played
salaries of
Rust.
children in a labor market, in a free labor market, are determined the same way as the salaries of adults. They tend to get paid less only because children tend to be worse workers, right? They're kind of immature. They don't have a lot of skills, not very reliable and disciplined. So they're going to tend
Here's
to
the
be
other
paid
great
a
thing
little
for
bit less.
companies. Children cannot
But-
advocate for their own experience and for their own labor rights as adults can.
No,
so
but their
abuse would
parents
be
can.
absolutely right.
Children can't do
What
a
if the
lot of
parents
things.
don't
Children
bother?
can't take care of themselves. So
Sure, but
that's why
you're
we have
sending your kid
people
off
take
to
care of
fucking,
them.
the peanut factory or whatever it is. The parent's not going to be there. They're trusting the company to do the right thing. There's no law to stop the company from treating the
I don't
kid
think
badly.
you should be able to hire a child without telling their parents. I think you should still have to get parental permission to hire children.
Yeah, but then you could they could get hired at like a factory or something, and there's nothing that the parent's not there. So the parent's not going to know what's going on at the factory. There could be abuse that's engaged
I mean, if they
in.
care, I assume
Right.
they'll try to find out.
But now you're
What if
now,
they don't? But what
so
if
here's
they
the-
don't?
so
There's
but
no
here's
law
the
to
thing.
stop
You could say the
that.
same thing about school. The parents don't see what happens at school. They could just be like,
There's very
torturing
strict
those kids.
legislation that exists at school to
And
safeguard
there's strict
children.
rules about workplace safety and not torturing your workers.
Well, see, here's the funny
Okay,
thing,
but children
right?
can't advocate for themselves in the same way as adults can in a workplace. Whereas
Why
in
not?
schools,
They go home and
Well,
they're like, "Mommy, Daddy, I don't like my job because it's painful." Like, of course, why wouldn't they?
What if mommy and daddy are like oh, we've got 7 more children. Okay, go to work because we really need that paycheck.
You're making this point that they have to go for poverty. Well, if they have to work there and it's essential for the family to survive, then the family is not going to care that they're getting abused. They're going to send them the next day to make money. That's your fucking
first
point.
of all,
Tied yourself up. Unlucky. Untie that.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. So in this scenario where child labor laws we're comparing it to this ideal type where child labor laws work. We've already shown you that the child labor laws aren't doing anything, right? Child labor laws in Costa Rica, for example, again, like I said, 43% of everyone that is a child working in Costa Rica is illegally working against child labor laws. So what you're describing is the perfect versus your worst example.
You want to get rid of child labor laws in America as well, you said?
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So what I've described could happen, and there'd be no law to stop that from happening, would there?
There are tons of horrible things that happen in workplaces now. The difference here is that a child has the ability. The difference here is that a child has one or two parents that advocate for their rights. Other people advocate for their own rights. Do you think worker exploitation doesn't occur in America? Aren't you a socialist? Like, don't you believe in all of this worker exploitation everywhere?
Kids have to go to work because their family's poor. If their family's poor, there's a perverse incentive to keep sending the kids to the workplace, even if they're getting abused.
Right, which is why this doesn't make sense to talk about it in terms of America, because even if we got rid of child labor laws in America, there would be almost no child labor. Even if we did, there would still, because of all of the studies that you said were too fucking boring.
Wait, I just want to tell you guys, we got about like 15 minutes left max. I just want to let everybody know that. So if there's any arguments you wanted to throw on the table, just giving you that warning.
Okay.
Okay, look.
Yeah, go on.
As far as the developed world's concerned, there may be bad parents who make bad decisions for their kids, right? If you're a child and your parents are bad parents, that really sucks for you. Your life is going to be screwed up in all sorts of ways.
Unlucky. Get down to the factory and get those fucking shoes made, you little brat. I don't care if you're getting raped by the boss. Get on with it.
Because kids, all sorts of decisions have to be made for kids. What they're going to eat, where they're going to go to school, what friends, what they're going to do, who friends are going to hang with. So if your parents are bad at making decisions for you, you're going to have a tough life. I don't see any particular reason that we need to make this particular decision for all parents, no matter what. I don't see why we should take this particular decision out of the hands of parents. We let parents make all sorts of other decisions.
I'll be real quick.
We hope that we assume that generally parents are most likely to make the best choices for their kids.
Right. This is the problem.
About the parents that are making the best choices. Go on.
Chud, the problem here is that you're taking an extreme, which is an abusive bad parent, right? And what we're trying to what we're trying to explain to you is that obviously there are abusive parents. There are ways to stop abusive parents, right?
Laws that stop abusive
Nobody
parents.
is stop abusive parents, Chud, for once in your fucking life, take the cotton balls out of your ears and listen. No, you're just yelling every time I say something.
I allow you to speak. Please continue.
When the problem with using an extreme example of parents that are abusive to children is that you ignore the actual causes of child labor laws throughout the entire population. And the reason what we're saying is that child labor laws push children that are working predominantly. Yes, there are abusive parents that will take advantage of whatever situation they can to harm their children. We have to figure out ways to stop that. But the overwhelming
laws are a good way of stopping that, right?
Jesus Christ, Chud. The overwhelming majority of people, what happens when child labor laws are initiated in these situations where they're doing this because of poverty, is that they end up in the black market. They get sold into prostitution. They end up in jobs that are more dangerous and with less regulations, that are not enforced by contract, that are not enforced by, you guessed it, laws, because we're not advocating of getting rid of all laws. We're advocating for getting rid of child labor laws.
Wait,
yeah, exactly.
Are there any laws that you believe in?
We believe in natural law philosophy, contract law, volunteerism. We believe in parental guardianship. We believe in the right to freedom of association. We believe in the right of freedom of movement.
Wait. Like, are there any kind of laws? Like, give me an example of a law, like a specific law.
Let's not get distracted.
No, it's not. It's connected. Okay, you're against murder, right? But don't people just murder? Plenty of people will still murder if it's against the law.
Well, that's actually our argument about child labor, is that plenty of people will still put their children in child labor, like 43% of the child labor workforce in Costa Rica.
When I quoted your argument, I didn't quote it because it was a good one. I quoted it to make fun of it because it's a really bad one.
Oh, okay.
It's
It's
actually
ironic.
not true because murder is not something that people need to do or really want to do most of the time, right? Most people don't want to murder anyway. So you can make murder illegal and you don't end up with this massive black market for murder. But child labor in a place where the economy depends on children being able to work, you can't
Well, I don't
just
think
make it
child
illegal and
labor
expect it to
is
go away.
necessary. I don't think that families should have to rely on child
some
labor
places it
to
is.
survive. I don't think
Some
that they
places it
should.
is.
I think that there should be. We should set up. That
Why do
welfare
you
states
think
should
they're
be set
working?
up to provide.
No.
That's
Last
the
use
point.
name. Let
You're
him answer
saying
this.
more child labor is going to solve this. What I'm saying to you is that what would be better is to set up situations where families are provided for by the state, so they don't have to worry about sending their kid off to potentially get raped by their
There
boss.
you go.
because there's
Chud
no
Logic.
child
Congratulations. You finally joined the conversation, right? And that is the entire point of what we're saying is, while I probably disagree with your solutions, you're finally talking about solutions that could affect child labor as opposed to the ineffective child labor laws. I appreciate that you finally come over to our side and you understand that the issue isn't child labor laws, but it's poverty in those
Listen,
situations.
That's a very clever trick you're trying to do, but I'm not on your side at all.
It's not a
I'm
trick.
not retarded, so I'm not on ANCAP.
It's not a trick. Like, you just walked into it. It might not be what you meant to communicate. I don't know. Maybe you're just like word vomiting, but you now understand the real
You
problem.
could accuse me of that. All you've been doing is word vomiting all fucking panel. It's boring as fuck. Jesus. Studies, data. Listen, kids shouldn't have to work. Simple as. Enough said.
I agree. They shouldn't.
They shouldn't have to, but that's not what we're arguing.
But like all of the arguments, there are some arguments that you guys provided that were pretty good, but they can be used against the laws that you believe in, right? Like murder laws, or I'm assuming you guys believe in child abuse laws, right?
I don't think that's true. I don't think a murder is an essential part of any economy.
Wait, okay. Do you guys believe in child abuse laws?
We believe that it exists? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Wait, do you believe that it's a useful tool to reduce child abuse?
What is?
Yeah.
Do you want child abuse laws against child abuse?
Yeah,
I do.
This isn't complicated.
No, I was just I just couldn't quite understand what you were asking.
So if you're against like all the arguments that you were just bringing up, right, would also be good arguments against any form of law that protects children, like a child abuse law.
No, because child abuse it's not something you need to do, right? You don't. Your economy doesn't depend on child abuse. The welfare of a family doesn't depend on child abuse, but it might depend on child labor.
It can't. Okay.
Right? Child abuse is not going to be the best option for a child.
You have never demonstrated that the welfare of a family actually depends on abusing that child.
If it doesn't, why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Do you this is what I was saying in the beginning. Do you think that these parents just hate their kids, or they're just they're stupid, and then that's why they're making the kids work?
And moral actors?
I think that I trust a parent's choice for what to do better than someone from a completely different part of the world at a completely different wealth level making laws without really knowing how that economy works. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think the people living there who care about their own kids probably are the best people to make that decision.
Those are feelings that you have.
They might be wrong, but they're probably right.
Or demonstrated by science or anything.
So do you have science that demonstrates that the American politicians and the trade laws that they create have a better understanding of the welfare and needs of Bangladeshi children in Bangladesh and their parents?
Americans. I'm not American. When did I bring up like American lawmakers?
Okay, or how about UK or wherever it is that you are from that is engaging in child labor laws and in terms of their import trade laws, tariffs, and things of that nature? Can you demonstrate that they have a better understanding than the parents of those children in Bangladesh? Because you said it was against science, so I'm just curious.
The thing is, a lot of the thinkers, right? A lot of the thinkers that come to these conclusions are actually often from the communities in which child labor is being perpetuated.
I'm asking for data, right? Not standpoint epistemology. I don't want your Marxist philosophical drivel. I want an actual argument.
I'm not a Marxist. I'm a monarchist.
Yeah, so, but you're using standpoint epistemology, which comes from critical theory. It's fine. I want an actual argument or data or science.
If you believed epistemology and actual studies and consensus, you wouldn't have an ANCAP.
You just wait a second. You just said, right, why is it someone from the other side of the world is deciding what's best? And Eris is responding to that by saying it's people from within these communities that make this point. And then you're complaining about standpoint epistemology. Well,
I'm talking about these parents of their children.
Wait.
not
Is this
about
perspective
cultures and
relevant or not?
ethnicities.
Because they're within the fucking community. You're just dismissing it offhand when actually you just made a point that suggested you wanted to hear more from the perspective of the people there.
I know you have a difficult time with this, so follow me real quick. There's a difference between a parent and a child, and the child is the individual we are talking about, and the economic circumstance is the one they are currently living in, right? Versus either a politician in another country from a different position, or even a researcher that we're appealing to because they happen to come from this community. It is not the same as the individual choices of the parent and the child and the bond and the relationship that they have.
But the problem you're missing is that if a parent is in abject poverty, they may not make the best decisions for the best outcome of their child. And without labor laws, right? That
the parents won't make the best decisions, so the governments will step in and make the right decisions for you.
Yeah, and one decision for everybody. Sometimes. That's the problem.
That has to happen.
You're just making one huge sweeping decision.
Yeah, of course.
You're saying it's always wrong.
Well, no, what I'm saying to you is that there has to be limits in place. And when it comes to the protection of children, I think an abundance of caution is necessary, just like with age of consent laws, right? I think it's important to have a line and we say, right, that's the line that we've best established, okay? We're going to stick with that. And,
but our line is rational and yours isn't.
A line might be abuse, right? If you're doing something that like hurts your kid for no reason, that's illegal. But we have laws like that. We have laws against child abuse.
But if they have good reason, if they have good reason, you could hurt them.
If you have good reason that your kid has to do something that's unpleasant, like working on the farm to allow a subsistence farm to subsist, then I would not call it abuse. No, I
just have a quick question: am I the only parent here? Aristocracy, do you have children?
As well.
You parent?
Yeah.
Right. So I just curious.
I have a dog. So,
okay. Yeah. Not pet parents. Come on, real parents. So you have children, right?
That's
so you Chud, right? That's not offensive. Get the fuck. Totally different. Now. So you have children, right? Do you really legitimately believe that the state has a better understanding of what is important for your children than the love and the care and the attention that you have for your child? You legitimately believe that?
Yeah, but that's not the case for everyone. Whilst I think, but then I, align with the idea they should go to school. They need to focus on their schooling. A job could just be a distraction from that. I think an important education is a really good foundation for a good existence in life. And that's why it's so important that kids have like compulsory schooling and they're prevented from working, which again goes against the perverse incentive that poor families would have to send their kids out to work rather than send them to school.
Right, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm not asking if you believe with certain policies that the state is enforcing currently. What I'm asking is, do you trust yourself more or a politician more to know what's right for your children? I'm just curious.
I don't look at it like that. It doesn't matter what I'm looking at it from the broad societal perspective that there are some parents that will do the right thing and some parents that will do the wrong thing. And some parents
you accuse me of a lot of pivoting.
Children to work.
Can you answer the question?
You're providing is an argument against any form of child abuse law. Right? Like, because I'm assuming you think you're a really good dad. Okay? I'm just going to assume that, right? You seem like a nice guy. Okay? So you're probably not abusing your child. You're probably a really good father to them, right? Does that mean that we shouldn't have child abuse laws? Right?
No.
Does that mean
why would I say that?
We as a society,
we never said anything against child abuse laws.
So there are at least some limits.
Aristocracy. I really would appreciate it.
That's all the child labor law is.
You gave me the respect to say that I'm probably a good father. So give me just a little bit more respect and stop straw manning my argument. Right? We're not arguing against child abuse laws. There's a rational difference between these two things. Right? We've brought up several reasons why there's a rational difference. What we're saying is that there yes,
just demonstrating that your argument is fallible because it can be used against things that you also believe in.
No, we can't, because there's absolutely different rationales between those two things. And I set up an entire framework of libertarian.
Or it creates more economic use.
No. You might have been lost in the sauce when I was saying it, right? But I gave you an entire explanation of libertarian philosophy and the rights of children, right? I'm not going to go over that again because I know it'll blow Chud Logic's brain. Right?
Do you think children can be abused without them being aware they're being abused?
Absolutely.
Okay, so a child could be in a workplace and be taken advantage of and being abused and might not be aware of it, okay? Especially if they're younger.
Absolutely.
Right? So The point there is that if a family is poor, they may disregard any abuse they're receiving, or they may not even know about it because the child isn't voicing it. So that's why a child labor law is important, in order to prevent that situation from occurring in the first place.
Right, but
See?
the problem is that we're
very simply.
No, pause.
Wait. I have no clue what was just said. Okay, who was asking a question? Can they restate it, because I didn't even hear it?
Chud was asking me a question.
Okay, Chud, ask the question, and then Fabian will be the one that responds, nobody else.
Okay, it's really simple, right? Do you have to go over it again, or do you remember, Fabian?
No, I remember. The problem here is that you're equating you slip a few pieces of logic, and I understand you don't like nerd shit. But the problem is that you insert child labor law as a reason, but none of your evidence has actually demonstrated why child labor law is necessary. What all your evidence does is support why child labor in manufacturing and in dangerous jobs and in jobs that can be exploitative is bad. That is not the argument. We have said multiple times that we don't like exploitative child labor. What we are saying is that child labor laws are not an effective means of stopping it, and that often they have negative consequences that can be worse for the parents and the children involved.
If you're desperate enough,
right?
if you're in a desperate situation, you could allow your child to
But
be
it's a lesser evil,
abused
right?
by their employer. Or more simply, if you're in a desperate situation, you could allow yourself to be abused by your employer.
So
That
would you
tends
be
to
happy
happen.
with an employer
A good way to
abusing their
prevent
kid
that is
if
to
it was
have
necessary?
employment standards.
Would you be
Legal
happy
standards
with an
for safety
Would you
in
be
the
happy?
workplace?
Would you be happy with an employer abusing a kid if it was the right outcome for the betterment of the family?
I don't see how that's the right outcome.
I'm not a consequentialist. I'm not a lefty, so no. That's simple.
There are things that employers shouldn't do to you because there's no reason that it doesn't.
But what if they
doesn't
do?
make you more productive to abuse you in that way? And we have laws about workplaces being safe and the way employees are treated to prevent that.
But you realize your position
but you only get the benefit of those laws if you have a legal job.
Situations. You'll create more of these situations where children are being abused in the workplace.
No, you create
You created those situations, and we've proven that.
If you drive child labor underground, they don't get that protection. That's how they can get abused.
Oh, sorry. Is there loads of underground child labor in America? I don't see it. Where's all the underground child labor happening in America?
Again, if you had listened at all during this debate, you would understand that once people start making over $10,000 income per person, child labor essentially disappears regardless of child labor laws. It goes down to 0.0.
But then what you're doing is you're setting children up. But the problem is with your approach is you're setting children up to not make that much because they're not getting an education. They're not going to get a good job and they're going to be trapped in a cycle of poverty. So your solution of just solving child labor by doing more child labor creates a perpetual cycle of poverty.
Actually, that's not what the data shows at all. The majority of individuals that work in child labor markets throughout the
the data completely disagrees with you. The studies disagree with you.
Well,
right?
you've yet to actually show any data throughout this entire time. You've just quoted conclusions from research.
We got to wrap this up. You will both be given a period of time to do ending statements while I talk to the judges and we figure out who is the inaugural Hippy Dippy Tag Team Champions, HDC Tag Team Champions. We're going to first give it to Toontown since we allowed Market Justice Warriors to open up first time.
Okay.
Chad, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I think their flustering speaks for itself. Their positions end up with more kids getting abused, but they're ANCAPs. What do you expect? That's it.
Okay. So, you could really see the core of the argument, particularly even though we demonstrated that there has been historical consensus, scientific consensus, who have gone through all of the data instead of cherry picking specific instances, right? The way someone like Gwyneth Paltrow cherry picks the instance where this weird stone putting in her vagina fixes her cancer, right? All of those things, that's not how data is analyzed. That's not how scholars come to conclusions, right? They go through all of this, right? They're obviously experts on the subject, and they come to these conclusions. And we can read these studies ourselves. The one particularly that I linked, right, by the guy you quoted, Edward, right? Like it was pretty obvious by what you said. And just in general, there are. When it comes down to it, it really feels like this is an argument about freedom, right? You kept honing down on this emotional argument about what a parent cares about their child, and they're going to be picking what's right, because I think that you're imagining the situation where your child your child is sitting there starving, right? And they're about to die. But if you let them just work in that mill that day, they're not going to die. And so you're going to pick the lesser evil. That is not on average the situations that these people are in. We have come further as a society, right? We have thought of other solutions to poverty, right? There are plenty of other solutions. And this is one of those solutions because it creates long-term economic growth and allows children to escape the cycle of poverty by putting the majority of their time in education, right? Instead of skills like being able to piece out their nuts like with their teeth. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'm throwing it over to Market Justice Warriors.
I'm a little bit meaner in the way I do these things, so I'll go first. Nice guy, go left. It's username. Yeah,
Fringe.
so what we heard was Chud make memes the entire debate and not actually intellectually engage with anything that we said and just lie about everything. And aristocracy,
okay.
and so can I have my closing statement? Can you shut up? So anyways, but aristocracy, I kind of feel bad for you because Chud really...
speak.
So anyways, I kind of feel bad for you because I feel like Chud really like swamped you down and it was kind of a 2-on-1 in terms of. Unfortunately, I didn't hear a lot of arguments from you. What I heard was what you're accusing me of, projecting, which is appeal to authority. What you were doing is you were saying, well, this person and the community agrees to these things, right? And unfortunately, what we're doing is not cherry picking data. What we're using is looking at actual research and making arguments to support, using this to support arguments that we're making, such as, the fact that in 1800, 1900, 1910, the child labor laws had no effect on child labor. We had, World Bank information. And of course, one of the big sources that you wanted to claim was the ILO. You made me Google things. And again, it proved my point. And so I think it's very clear from the argument that we've made that while none of us here really like child labor, the fact that we want to institute these laws, really, it just comes from a place of privilege and it comes from a place of misunderstanding and it comes from a place of not really doing the research when it comes to economics as it's proven. And, the best thing for these people is sometimes stuff we don't like. And the best thing we can do to fix those things is fix the economic conditions. And I just didn't, we barely heard a little bit of an argument from Chud at one point that finally addressed the topic. And he came over to our side and I appreciate it.
And Eris, we appreciate, thank you for bringing a study and some argument, but you didn't really, all I heard was a conclusion from the study, and the conclusion didn't even sound like it was very confident in the concept that the child labor laws were actually important. It was really hedging that on child labor laws and this other stuff has to be part of a package of blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's not, just based on that, it's not very convincing. I'll take a look, but what we really need to hear is methodology that actually establishes the labor laws themselves as the cause of the improvement. We gave you a study that refutes that shows that the laws didn't correlate with the improvement, and that defeats that concept, that premise. So that's the problem. I'll take a look at the study. Maybe it says more, but I don't think there's any. You guys have any argument here?
Okay. Thank you both for participating in the first ever Hippy Dippy championship tag team match. I am waiting for all of the judges to respond, and then we're going to have the first ever tag team champions. You can talk freely if you want.
Oh, now we can talk freely. What were we doing before?
Yeah, right?
Nothing to say. I'm bored. I'm bored of this. Come on. What's going on?
Too bad your avatars don't have crocodile tear support. That would really help your argument.
I do have tears.
The only crying I heard was from you nerds.
Also, chat, who do you think
I do
won?
have tears when I think about, if we lose this, that means that, there's literally going to be children being exploited all over the world. The stakes are so high. People think this is just some Twitch debate.
Well,
Eris,
Eris, again.
Wait. We're streamers. We exploit children all the time. We take their money.
Right?
True.
Right? But aristocracy, aristocracy, again,
my audience is very old. Okay?
I think I think the exact opposite. I think we put out a very well convincing data supported argument that shows that if we keep pushing these child labor laws, what you're actually going to have is situations. situations similar like in Bangladesh where children were sold into sex trafficking and prostitution.
This is the
because
thing.
of this
The dirty secret is that
If
the
you got all
experts
this
have
data,
learned
why does
what
no one
we're
take
saying.
ANCAP seriously?
And that's
Why
why
does no
you
one take
only see
ANCAP
the labor
seriously if you
laws
got all
come
this
up.
data? ANCAPs are a
They're
joke.
not necessary.
Everyone considers them a joke. They're the biggest joke ideology in the entire fucking political spectrum, okay?
And jokes is all you have because
Better
we're
at debating
right.
than you are.
And autism's all you've got.
Have you ever played
I
Rust?
don't even know if you can say that.
I've not actually played Rust. And
Okay,
but you know
I
what?
genuinely
You know
think
what?
should play Rust. I love Rust, right? I feel like I would really enjoy an ANCAP society. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? But it would turn me into a terrible
be
person.
great.
I've seen
It would be great. It would
I've
be
seen it
beautiful.
happen.
Better health, better
better
outcomes, better rights,
Okay.
better business, better
It
technology.
brings out.
Turn you to
It brings out pure
when you have
evil.
responsibility, real
Okay.
responsibility for the society you live in. Turn you into a
We
good.
got a response. We got the judges' votes, and it is a split decision from the judges. A split decision.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Now, first, I want to say that, of course, the vote is for fun, and it does not dictate who is right or wrong on any issue. People know how this show works, and it's not an endorsement by me of whatever the position that wins, and I have to say that multiple times now, okay? So, the first vote is from the celebrity guest judge, Real Ranton, who voted for the Market Justice Warriors. He believed they made the better argument. The second vote is from Danabo, who voted for Toontown. And the last vote is from my favorite editor in the world, Mr. Geek. And it's for, I'm sorry, it's just so hard to read. I'm sorry, I think there's a smudge on my screen. I can't see it. Ah, my goodness. Man, it's really on there.
This feels like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Like,
Yeah. Little Deal or No Deal, actually.
oof.
God, it's so hard to read that mark. Oh, it's for Toontown is the winners of the Hippy Dippy Championship.
It was obvious.
Tag team.
It was
I like
obvious.
Dylan how you're more embarrassed that cartoons won than ANCAP.
It was obvious.
Right.
Let's be real.
Well,
No one's interested in that nerd shit.
Well, I'm embarrassed because I don't think you should have won. But anyway, you guys are the first ever tag team champions. Congratulations on being the first ever tag team championship belts. Getting them, we'll be shipping them out to you. We'll have them in 3D format to be sent to you guys. Congratulations.
Hey, maybe one day we can have a rematch and they could present at least one good argument. Because they didn't have any today.
You want to get blown out again? Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I don't know.
Chud Logic, you are a rock dragging down Eris for the entirety of the conversation.
I think Eric should get both belts.
I really do, yeah. I mean, if
think
they're gonna win, which obviously, like, let's be honest, we know you guys didn't win. But if they're gonna win, Eris should get both belts because Chud was really dragging her down.
How much
What did we do wrong?
research
Should we
did
have,
you do
like,
for this to
dabbled
just
and-
lose?
No,
How
you
much
know why
research
he
did you
dragged me
guys
down?
do?
Because he made me laugh so hard that I was like dying the whole time. Like I almost fell off my chair in the beginning.
He's
To be
even
clear,
more.
I want to be honest. If I was the judge, I would have given it to them. I'm just gonna be honest.
Dylan, no one gives a shit what you think. Shut the fuck up, okay?
I get.
It's his show.
You know
Oh,
what? I
shit.
recalibrated the votes actually.
Dylan, it's your show. You can do whatever you want.
That is true. I could do
Okay.
whatever I want, Chud.
Well, I mean, listen, mate. Everyone's seen what's happened, so if you want to change it because I've insulted you, so be it.
Eris is the new tag team champion. Congratulations. First ever and probably only tag team champion. Congratulations, Eris. That's a mighty.
Oh shit.
Thank you.
There you
I
go.
wanna thank
2-on-1. You won 2-on-1, right?
Wow. That is
Even
a
worse.
mighty-
I would love to. I'd love to.
Chud penalty.
I know. I would love to hear an argument from you, like a good one. But you did win 2-on-1, and that's an impressive feat.
I gotta be honest. I'm gonna make the Market Justice Warriors active in the tag team division because I want them to go for the belts again because I think
You should have a little talk with your judges, Dylan.
I should have a little talk with my judges actually. But I appreciate you guys for coming on and
Absolutely.
doing this and arguing for a position that I know is going to give you a lot of shit, and I know you got a lot of shit. And I know half the people who said you lost in chat just said it because they disagree.
Well, also, we tried a ton of different debate topics, and Chud would only pick one that made ANCAPs look really, really bad. Like we even tried to throw them selling kidneys on the open market, and he didn't think that he could make ANCAPs look bad enough with that. And so over and over and over again, we had to keep trying to find a topic until it got to child labor laws, which is one he thought he could win. And apparently he was right. It doesn't actually matter if you make a good argument or not. Only matters that child labor law is just something people.
So I'm going to send the belts out to the new champions. Congratulations, Aristocracy. Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to say?
I really resented the part where my parenthood of my dog, was downplayed and acted as if that, is not as meaningful as a relationship with a child. So that's all I'm saying.
Wonderful.
I'm not sorry.
Would you make your dog get a job? I'd make my cat.
Yes,
get a
but that's
job.
because she's a working dog. So
okay. So is it different or is it same? I have a working child.
it's part of her definition. She has to.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. We're now going to go to the announcers for a short period of time, and then we're going to go to the main event that you've all been waiting for, Destiny versus CTV. And I will also probably call you guys in private after this, my libertarian friends. I love you all. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, hold on. Let's see what they have to say. I am interested to see what these guys have to say.
Is that a good inaugural Hippy Dippy Tag Team Championship match or what?
That was a good inaugural match.
This is the first time I've actually disagreed with my judges. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, I think that unfortunately, because I do agree with Chud and Eris more. It's just that they didn't have as strong arguments. I thought that they had a couple of moments where they were starting to gain some momentum, but ultimately they didn't deliver in the way that I wanted them to.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just that I felt like.
Oh, thanks for the follow.
Slam dunk, I felt like that the Toontown could have used, and that was when they said it only increased like people going to school by 7%. They should have just bit that and said, okay, so it increased it by 7%, so it does help.
Right.
But instead they just maneuvered around that and started arguing other positions. And I felt like, honestly, if Chud Logic would have been more in his game, it would have been probably a lot closer, in my opinion, and I think they would have probably won. But Chud Logic was just holding their team down the whole time, and the insults and that is all fine, but it felt like it was like insults and
Hey, Mark,
like very.
wanna hop in?
I have to disagree a little bit. I think that Chud's package in those red bikini briefs brought a lot to the table, Dylan. I think you're kind of discounting that a bit.
Chud made it fun, but that you can.
Hey,
make it
what's
fun
up,
and
last
also have an
username?
argument.
Listen. Chud was wronged here. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that
Chud was wronged.
Yeah, because he's right. Data is boring. Studies are boring, and I'm getting
this.
through.
Of course.
I'm getting my
Of course.
PhD, and I will admit that data and studies are boring.
The
This
truth
is
is
a Friday
boring.
night
Yep.
debate panel with belts.
Yeah, you can't defend
involved,
anything
bro.
you're
If
saying
I
with
wanted to
like
hear
data.
I'd go
You have to be
fucking,
super
listen to a
entertaining and a politician,
dissertation.
and
And
people
I
like
think
that
he was
moron is exactly
completely
why
wronged
we're
here.
in the
I think
position
that
we're
he
in.
was right to call out and yawn at them and shit. And in fact, I was yawning listening to their outros the entire time. Resident sleepers. That's my take.
Yeah, no, that was hard to swallow.
I'll
Like
agree.
that was
I think
clearly
if you
rigged.
if you can like come to a debate with just an abstract, just like you just have to read the abstract and the conclusion, and you could probably get by on that. I don't like all this like bullshit about asking people for their like what is the methodology of that. That's some fucking academic shit. We're on fucking Twitch. Very fucking true. But
You
you
can
have to
have
have a
those
little bit
Why
more
would you
than-
dare not appeal to authority?
I think
we should be discussing more from like a moral point of view rather than like 7% increase made a 12% decrease.
What's up, new
That's what
guys?
you did all night.
Like no
the
one's
part
here
that
for that.
frustrated me.
I love these
the part that
leftists, like-
frustrated me was they kept on going.
Dude, they're trying so hard to
arguing
cope their victory.
Who
yes,
cares
this is
about
something that
data and
we should,
studies? Who
consider
cares
for
about the
underdeveloped
ends?
nations
We
so
only
they
care
can,
about,
keep
you
their
know,
families from
principles.
starving. But we would
Like-
also defend it in
Principles that they
in a
don't
first
have.
world country, but then they never really defended for why it was
Their
good
ideology
in a first world
completely
country.
flips around.
The
And I
problem.
really wish they had.
The
stuck
They
to
will
problem
do anything they
was,
can
for
just
me,
agree with you
is that
because
it
they
felt
hate
like
that you're
Toontown was
ANCAPs.
not getting to the argument.
That's all it
fundamentally
comes
that
down
they're
to.
making about. Look, the issue here.
I'm really
isn't
interested in what they're
law.
saying.
The
I
issue
really
is
am.
poverty.
Yeah.
So if you address the poverty, then you don't need these fucking stupid laws that don't
Yeah, I
really
thought
have
we had it for
any
sure.
effect.
Yeah, I thought we
whatsoever.
did too.
And if anything, it's just going to criminalize poor people who have no
So
other option.
it was Heem and
That was their
Sanso that voted
argument,
against us?
And I don't feel like they
They weren't
addressed
the
that
judges.
argument. And that's
Yeah.
my
Should
problem.
have.
Yeah, Dylan's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Right.
You
They
can't
did
give
that.
up the
say-
moral high ground. You got to stick with it and find ways to make it work. You know what I mean?
You can't give up the moral high ground. Unless the judges are going to vote for you no matter what.
Yep.
Can I say
Well-
I think a good addition to have for future renditions? I saw that Eris sent that study. Unfortunately, I was busy. I couldn't take a look at it. But I think it would be cool if people shared their sources beforehand, and
Yeah,
or even during
this
the
is
debate,
true.
and you could have someone behind the scenes like checking.
Oh, you
and
would just
saying,
drown
like,
people in
so-and-so
sources.
was right,
Yeah, I
or
would.
this
I
person
mean,
was
if I would have
right,
shared all my
because it's hard to
sources,
say.
they
Yeah,
The
that's
problem-
one thing these
I-
debates
I
need
can
is
tell you,
discovery
fact
process.
checking
Yep.
on a live debate, people ask
Yeah.
me
But
all
most- but
time,
the problem
is
is
it
you can't do that for
possible? And let's
No,
say
not
in fact,
you do it.
It's
or
WrestleMania,
staff,
you know?
or having people's staff
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do it. I don't trust that either.
Boring.
Because my staff is biased.
Security
they'll
testing
come
is
into
now a
effect,
thing, noobs.
And some of them won't trust this study, but will trust this study. So let's say I say this shows that the minimum. Let's say like minimum wage. Somebody can find a study that says minimum wage is good. Other person can find a study that minimum.
Yeah,
wage is bad.
Casimir, like
Because
I can't make
it's kind of a
every
real topic.
possible
And so
argument
making
here.
that a
I get what you're
fact-checkable
saying.
thing or
I
something
mean, I
like that-
tried to talk
I
about
would
it
say,
like with
okay,
me
sorry,
working
what
and
I
stuff.
meant by fact
I
check
did
is,
forget
if
to go
someone
into
says,
the
"I have
chores.
this study that says this. That's pretty easy to check.
Yeah, no,
Like, you
our
could
study,
look
the
at it and
data
say,
in,
okay,
in the
like,
study, in the
does this
Edmund
article
study
that they
that I
sourced in the
cited
chat, does it
is
reach this
in
conclusion that
favor
they're
of us,
saying, or
right?
does
It's
it
just
not,
the
you
fact
know?
that when
Got
what
it.
happens
Well,
is you
I
have
think
these
that's
people
easier
that
to do.
Now
state
is the main
obviously that they are
CTV versus
against
Essex.
child
What we've been
labor
waiting for
and they're advocating for
I
child
am
labor
very
laws,
excited.
and then you only read the conclusion in the
very
abstract
excited.
where they
This is
say, well,
going
this
to
is
be
why we
a
need child
shorter
labor
match.
laws. It's like
It's
that's
going
not
to
an
be
argument.
30
You have a biased
minutes.
person
It's going to be a shorter
saying
match, the shortest matches of the night.
that
It's
they
gonna be
need
fighting
something that they
both
already
groups.
advocate for.
Now,
That's why we're like,
who
make
do you
your
think's gonna win
argument.
this debate?
She never made an actual argument, right? The
So
argument is
my
a claim
guess
and then
earlier,
supporting evidence
my,
for that
my
claim.
gut feeling is CTV. He really
Either
wants it. He's
inductive
really
or
energized,
deductive.
But then IRI did say that Destiny was having a losing streak on League today. So I'm really torn. But I think that
Well, no, Casimir,
that will
we
give Destiny the edge here.
Casimir,
because
we
he's a
we
monster when he's
specifically
angry.
said, that they were
I'm worried
equating
Destiny's
child labor
mental
laws,
went boom,
and I showed
because he
again
was
where
in
she was like the
losers queue over
far
there on
right
League.
want to resurrect child labor. I was like,
think
well,
he's
is it youth
diamond and he
unemployment
deserves it,
or
but
child
I'm
labor? And
worried
she's like,
that,
well, they're
NA
saying child
might
labor.
have destroyed
It's
him in
like
90
everyone
locked
knows
off
that's
early.
bullshit,
So,
right?
I think he's
You
gonna
got
bring
you
that
wanted
heat,
to
but,
make
you know,
me
the wolf-
use
the
your
wolf leader
definition
is also,
to try and say that it
seems
was
like he's
inherently
drinks in
abusive.
right now and having a good
And then
time, so
you wanted to
I
use
don't know.
that
This is
same
a wild
linguistic
card right
trick
now, Dylan. It's a coin
when
flip.
talking about the right. Right? And it's semantics and bullshit. Like she had no argument except semantics and an appeal to authority. If she
being drunk
and the thing is, I'm going to make this quiet. If she had simply brought one really good study about how and really hammered home the point, they're all wrong about how she could have won. If she wanted to win, which was something I was hoping that she wouldn't go into. If she really wanted to win, she would have talked about how compulsory education might not have an immediate impact on child labor, but that education creates a more educated labor market that allows for better economic situations and things like that. And that compulsory education laws, even if in the short term they do some form of damage, in the long term will stop child labor, right? And that is a form of child labor law. It would have been a weak argument we could have picked apart, but it would have been an argument.
Destiny versus CTV for the hippie.
Elective education,
Championship.
non-compulsory education. Look, I'm assuming these places
Everybody,
that have a lot of child labor probably don't even have any
the HCC
schools at all,
championship
right?
match.
No, like that's why I brought up Uganda.
not free
Later, there will
schools.
not be-
No, that's why I brought up Uganda.
So
Uganda.
yeah, I'd love to see what happens if you provided free schools to these places. Would some of those child laborers end up spending some time in school and then getting a
No, that's the problem with the ILO, right? What they
I'd rather
show,
do that than child labor law.
what the ILO does, and this is what Casimir was talking about, was a point I forgot to mention because I didn't see it. I think I glanced it and saw it in chat and it was fucked.
And now, the moment
Oh shit! But the point point is that the ILO
And now,
is they report household chores often as child labor, as unpaid child labor. Like that is how biased of a source ILO is, right? And they report child labor as anybody that is under the age of 18 that works at all, which would be like me working at Burger King is considered child labor. And then she wanted to pin me on the definition. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying, is that the ILO is a biased source here. That's why the ILO's numbers are vastly different than the World Bank. All right, let's watch this.
CDB is so fucking sloshed.
Dude,
he's not gonna last
This
long.
is not gonna last long.
He's just gonna babble.
It's gonna be a good time.
Moonshine.
You just watched a clip from our Twitch channel, Fabian Liberty. If you like content like this, please like and subscribe here on YouTube, or go ahead and give us a follow on twitch.tv/Fabian Liberty.